By the way, did you know, you probably didn't know, we have ChatGPT in all our cars. A Jetta.
Oh, wow.
So you can buy, a Volkswagen, a Jetta, $30,000, and you have ChatGPT in there. So our cars are fans of AI as well.
Wait a minute. So you talk to it and then it answers back?
Has the complete app in the vehicle, so please try it out. And
wow. So you can ask directions.
Part of our Connect services.
That is amazing.
And most people don't know.
Diana, this is an exciting day. We traded your beautiful view of New York for this lovely view of Reston, Virginia.
I have to tell you, I'm so excited to be here with our most popular guest right here.
Very exciting. Our guest is Dr. Kjell Gruner, CEO of Volkswagen Group of America. Kjell, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for being here. It's such a great opportunity to talk and welcome you to our headquarters here in Northern Virginia. It's not New York City, but it's still nice. Thank you for coming.
You have the most beautiful views here. I went to the 20th floor and I was like, wow, this isn't New York City, but wow, these views are spectacular.
It's like Central Park in 360 degrees.
Yes.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
Well, less pleasant than the views here of Reston is sort of the U.S. auto market and global auto market, really. With the U.S. tariffs, the war in Iran driving up prices of petroleum and oil and other commodities. How are you holding up? How's business?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, one thing is, I would say, coming out of the aftermath of COVID, I would say crisis is the new normal. It just is. The question is how do you cope with it? And you can't just wait for better days and blue skies. It is what it is. So we have to deal with these changes in environment, and it's always the same. The one who adapts the fastest is going to be the winner. So I think we have to accept there are just external factors that are beyond our control. Mm-hmm. And now we can complain about that forever, or we can not and say, okay, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Control the controllables. And that's what we do. Crisis is the new normal. These daily stand-ups, et cetera, is just the new normal. And then we have to cope with it and make sure that the teams are aligned and that everybody sees, we have a plan and we work together as a team. That's how we cope with it.
The first quarter was rough for everybody, difficult comparisons with first quarter of 25. Are you still hopeful that the rest of the year will get better and that sales will be up for the VW brand this year?
It's a difficult situation, as you said. And certainly we're also impacted, especially by the tariffs from Mexico. You could argue why, are there 25% tariffs from Mexico, USMCA, and we are, with our products, with the Jetta, with the Taos, but most importantly with the new Tiguan coming out of Mexico. You could argue we were the good guys. We are 100% USMCA compliant. We invested hundreds of millions into being compliant. And the plan was 0% tariffs. Now we paid 25 versus 15 from the EU, et cetera. So, but then it is what it is. So that certainly impacts then the profitability of these vehicle lines. So we need to balance between, contribution margin on the one hand side, volume on the other hand side, also making sure, the volume is there to support our dealers. Mm-hmm. So that's the balancing what we do at the moment. Mm-hmm. April was good for us. So up 0.2 percent points versus last year. So that's good. And I would say the trend is your friend. And we continue to work exactly in that direction.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned USMCA, of course, that's coming up for review. What does Volkswagen want to see out of that? I hear from other automakers, gosh, we just like as little change as possible. I presume you'd actually like to see things even get more friendly between the U.S. and Mexico, although that might be a big ask these days.
Yes, at the end of the day, when you look at a company, let's take our company. It's true. It's also for other companies. You have the more competitive products. You have lower prices for the consumers. So that's how our business model is built. So the vehicles like, the Atlas, the new Atlas is built in the US. It's, our top of the line product that's built in the US. And then a Jetta, a Taos, also for other countries, the Jetta's also built in Mexico for Mexico. We need to look at it from a systematic perspective. So that can play very well together, and it needs to play together, both for the benefit of the U.S.
It's been interesting to me. Obviously, the policy changes have been really challenging for the industry. Tariffs on, different tariffs in different places, the trade war with China, just one thing after another. But the industry has had some good success getting through to the administration. Maybe after they announce a policy, what's been the most effective means of communicating? Do you go through your congressional delegation in Virginia? Do you work through trade groups like Autos Drive America or the Alliance for Automotive Innovation? What's most effective in your experience?
To me, it's all of the above. One thing is, and you didn't mention, for instance, our dealers. Also the dealers have an interest, and it's also our interest. They are successful if we are successful, and vice versa. So they also have a lot of political influence and are close to the administration. So of course we sit down with our dealers and share what our perspective is. But I spent quite some time on Capitol Hill. So that's the advantage of having the office here in Reston. So it's a 25-minute drive to DC. So I spent quite some time there on all levels, then really also showing what it really means. And I understand they look across so many industries. You cannot be specialized in every industry. And this is a very specific industry. I'll give you an example. When you look at the value chains, last year we opened a new paint shop in our Mexican factory in Puebla. And the one that it replaced was 60 years old. So, this paint shop, and that cost $500 million, that's going to be there for the next 50 years. So, these high investment, long life cycles, that's very different than versus, let's say, agriculture. You can adapt from one season to the next. So I think it just helps to share that and also show the data.
Kjell, I'm fascinated by a couple things too. And I'm going to turn more into the personal level, okay? Because you're one of my favorite CEOs. And I am fascinated by your whole career. You were an engineer, correct? Mm-hmm. And you are also the president of Rivian, mm-hmm. the CMO, global CMO of Porsche. And really, if you can explain to the audience your full title, what would that be?
Or what's the scope of being your full title?
Yeah.
I think it's complicated for people.
Yes.
It's two things. One is the title is President and CEO of Volkswagen Group of America. So that's the group function. And there's a couple of brands within that group. It's Volkswagen, Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Bugatti, Electrify America, and Financial Services. But at the same time, for instance, there is a president and CEO of Audi, etc. So these businesses, they have their own governance and their own teams. So at the same time, I'm also leading the brand Volkswagen. So
for U.S.,
for
Mexico.
the U.S., but then there's Mexico. But the head of Mexico, he reports into me. So it's a North American responsibility. Also, the Canadian team. We don't produce there, but so that's the national sales company, also with these brands that I just mentioned. So I'm the chairman there as well. So essentially, it's the group in North America, including the factories. So we have 2 factories in Mexico and one in Chattanooga. So it also includes then engineering, production, procurement, sales, and marketing. But I would say I spend 90% of my time with the brand Volkswagen, really.
It's incredible. And you've had an incredible career. How did it happen from an engineer to how many people report into you now? Like all the way from...
It's 22,000.
Wow. I mean, that's remarkable. And I think people think, oh, you're just the CEO of Volkswagen. No, it's the group. And so I wanted to show and share with everybody. It's a lot. How did it happen? How does an engineer from Germany, right? From Germany, I'm so excited. I'm throwing away. I'm hitting the mic. How does it happen? And then you become this person that's gone to multiple brands, launched a new EV brand on top of everything else, and now is in charge of 22,000 people?
First of all, you got to do your job well, and then be helpful broader than what your job is, so that people will see that and say, oh, she is doing that job really well and is taking on additional work on the left and right hand side of that. Just shows that you are ready for that next step. But by performing, but that goes without saying. You have to perform well, but don't limit yourself too much on that. But kind of, what else is there? Where else could I have an impact that gets you then visibility? But overall, maybe in terms of learning, you said I'm an engineer.
Yes.
And I would say I'm very much the analytical person, kind of this left half of the brain. And I learned that in the beginning of my career also, I worked for the Boston Consulting Group. And to me, if there is an excellent analysis and the outcome is clear what you got to do, to me it was clear we got to do this. But then people wouldn't.
Wow.
They just would not.
Okay. Why?
And that blew me away. I was like, but it's clear what we got to do. So this kind of, the hearts and minds of people, how do you win them over emotionally? Or also the question, what's in it for them?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole part, how, not only what are we going to do, but how do we do it? I found that at the end of the day, even more important than the analytical piece, how do you get the team behind it? How do you win them over emotionally? Which alliances might you need in larger cooperations? When I came from Porsche, small kind of family business culture, to Daimler Chrysler, it was the biggest surprise ever. I thought it's, Stuttgart, premium, but, one large corporation with politics and networks versus, so that was a huge learning. So this emphasis on how do we do things is just so underrated in a way. People always look at what are we going to do? But how do we win over the team? How do we communicate it, etc.? I think that piece is so important. And that grew on me over time, but it took a while.
Speaking of challenging teams to lead, you mentioned Chattanooga. You got a contract ratified with the UAW there in February. It's a very long, challenging process. I'm wondering what do you take away from that? What did you learn from that process, and what are the next steps for Chattanooga?
That was a lengthy process indeed, but I think it was also necessary. These conversations between UAW and us, for them, because this is not Michigan, this is not Detroit, kind of where their home base is. So our situation is a different one versus the domestic players. That's why it took time. It took time for conversations, and that's what took so long. But I think it was absolutely worth it for the UAW to better understand our situation, and vice versa. As Volkswagen, unions are an important part of our business, but that's Germany. So German unions are run very different than the U.S. Overall, the U.S. is very different, and Germany often underestimates that a bit. They think they understand America, but America is very different culture. What might look similar on the surface is just different. And I'd say better or worse, it's just different, and you need to understand it. So that was a good process, intense discussions also. I have to say that, but I think we're in a good spot now.
Yeah. And understand there was an announcement that the ID4, you'd stop production of that. Has that happened? And what's next in terms of, is there a replacement product, or can you ramp up Atlas production even more? How's that look?
I've seen the Atlas, by the way, Jamie. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
Especially the latest one. I mean, it is incredible, and it's beautiful. So hats off to you guys.
That was New York Auto Show, back in your backyard there, where they unveiled that.
In New York. I saw it in New York. It's incredible. Yes. And I took lots of pictures of it.
Please share them all.
Yes.
We're looking forward to having it in the showrooms then in fall this year. To your question, I mean, the EV demand changed with the changes in regulations So it's rather at 5% versus 10% of the market now. So that's also why we had to change and adapt. So at the moment we have enough ID4s. There will be a successor. That's important. Some people think we're moving out of that segment, and we're not. We're not. There will be a successor of the ID4. Absolutely. And I've seen it. We discussed it, the looks, etc. So it's something to look forward to. But at the moment, we said, just in terms of meeting demand, we're not going to continue the production in Chattanooga, but focus the team in Chattanooga really on the launch of the Atlas. And we expect more demand for the future Atlas than for the one that we have currently in the market. That's why we spend so much money on it. And thank you for the compliments. I also love it. So that's why Chattanooga now focuses on the Atlas, ramp up of Atlas, so that the team really has one job to do, launch the Atlas in really flawless quality. And then in due course, we will talk about what the ID4 will look like, tech features, et cetera, et cetera.
I was surprised by the cost. I was really, really shocked that the cost is as low as it actually is.
For the Atlas.
For the Atlas.
Yeah, for a vehicle that size and that's that beautiful.
I just thought, sometimes I think that there are some cars out there, some OEMs out there. The quality isn't there in terms of the look and appeal. And when you go inside of the vehicle, it feels very plastic to me. But when I went into that vehicle, it really was like, I felt like I was in a Highline vehicle. And then, when you look at the price and it's tens of thousands of dollars lower than a Highline vehicle, I said, this is the car. I really believe that's the future.
And that's exactly the positioning. So that's German engineering affordable. Luxury where it matters, not everywhere and everything, but where it matters. So the look and feel and the UI and the UX and the materials, and it's real wood and it's real leather, and a lot of love went into it. So it's much appreciated that it's also visible.
I have a trainer and I have friends, and I'm like, okay, this car, Toyota, Kia, Honda, and listed it all. And they said, Volkswagen. That's what they said. As soon as they saw it, they said Volkswagen. I said, that's how I feel too. It feels really luxury and it looks beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you for saying that. So we're also really proud of it.
Yeah.
And what I find funny, I had the discussion when you look at cars, and yes, there's an affordability squeeze. But when you look at it, we were shopping for some furniture, and there was a couch, and it cost $5,000. And I told my wife, "What does it do?" I'm serious.
Massaging or
nothing. Yeah. Seat heating, cooling, airbags, nothing. And then when you put that into perspective, and then you say, you get for $30,000 a vehicle that is going to last for 10, 15 years and 10,000 of miles and heats and cools, et cetera, et cetera. So, but that's when you come to the factory and see the invest to bring those costs down. And by the way, when you look at, because you said, the market and the affordability squeeze, maybe to come back to that, and the average price, the average MSRP in the US is now above $50,000, $50,600. And then when you see you get an Atlas for that. And
exactly.
A nice one. So that to me feels above average in terms of vehicle size and features and premium, what you have in there. So I would say, that is an advantage. I think when you say that's the average price point, well, what nice vehicles do you get at Volkswagen for that price? You get a Tiguan for below 40,000, and that's a really nice vehicle, 20% below average MSRP. So I think that is an opportunity for us as a brand.
And there's more, Kjell. I'll tell you what it is.
Go for it.
I hate when everybody has everything and the same thing.
That's okay.
To me, I don't want everybody to have it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's certain products that you buy, because there's an exclusivity to that, right?
Yep.
Not saying VW is exclusive, but I love the fact that you can't turn the corner and there's, 50 of them in the parking lot. I don't want to be that, right?
Yep.
So it makes a statement when you drive those vehicles. And I think that part's very special. So that leads me to the question, because to me, you make beautiful vehicles. Mm-hmm. What are some of the challenges operationally that VW stores are having right now?
Good question. I think in general, we as the manufacturer, we need to do a better job to collaborate with our dealers. I would say in every regard. One is just regular communication. But I think the sales funnel is something that needs to be engineered. That really needs to be engineered in terms of process, of data layers. And that needs to be a process that goes, I always think sales funnel: awareness, consideration, intent, purchase. And at the end of the day, of course, then you have the OEM and then you have the dealer. But it's one customer.
Yes.
So that needs to be really one seamless process, both online, dealer websites, OEM websites, all those things. That needs to be one seamless journey. And we're not there yet. So I look at it from there's a lot of potential perspective. If we make that process a lot smoother, a lot clearer, then I think we really have a potential to improve as a brand. And that's true both for the dealer, who will sell more of our product, have more customers, more after-sales business, etc. And that's maybe the engineer in me, the German that loves a clear process. That's not, la pour la, so that's there, but so that's one customer journey without any friction. So OEM, dealer, but also online and offline. That also needs to be one journey. And I think there's so many things that we can improve there. Because we don't have them ready yet, but also because there's new possibilities, new platforms, AI plays a role, etc. So leveraging that.
I would say there's so many dealers that are nothing to do with Volkswagen, just upset about profitability right now. I hear it, and you hear it too,
across
Jamie.
the board, yeah.
Across the board.
Yep.
Because they used to print money during COVID, right? And now they're like, oh, it's not printing money anymore. It's not printing money anymore. And there's a lot of stress out there. And some of the stores that are not high volume, they're feeling even more stress in terms of profitability right now. Do you see that changing in the future? And not about Volkswagen, but overall as a dealer? Is it time to still buy more dealerships? I wonder.
I mean, there's a lot of buy-sell going on at the moment. And that can help if the scale is missing for some of those smaller dealerships. It's certainly more difficult. But when I look at the regression analysis, dealer size and profitability, the R-square isn't even that high. So we also have small dealers that are really profitable.
Wow.
So typically the difference is it well managed, yes or no? And of course, it also needs our support. I'm not saying just manage your dealership well. It needs our support in terms of tools, in terms of processes, in terms of parts, everything that you need. So yes, it is high on our agenda to improve the profitability of the dealers. And unfortunately, there's not one, silver bullet where you say, if we did that, then it's going to be solved. So we go by profit pools that we say new vehicle, CPO, F&I, etc. Look at each one of them and think how we can improve those. And that's also policies, ease of doing business is something that we have high on the agenda. Because we're a German company and then we got all these rules. But also over time, people tend to add rules. Of course. And hardly ever someone says, let's do an inventory and say, which one can we kick out? Or maybe even better say, let's take them all out and only, pick the ones that we still need in the future. So ease of doing business is also important, even if it sometimes might not reduce, let's say, cost or improve revenue for the dealer. But if it speeds up, that also helps a lot from a customer perspective. If the solution is faster there, if I wait an hour or half an hour versus 24 hours, makes a huge difference. So we also look at SSI and CSI from J.D. Power.
Yes.
We went from the Google 5-star, which was good for the time, but it's not discriminating really. All the dealers were 4.7, 4.8, 4.9. Really, and we have great dealers, but if everybody's up there, so we look at J.D. Power, sales satisfaction, service satisfaction, and for us, of course, initial quality and appeal. So those are the 4 metrics that we really track and manage with clear action items. And then better sales satisfaction helps for the vehicle, for loyalty, service satisfaction. The first car is sold by the salesperson, and the second, third, fourth by the
Service department.
department.
Fixed ops.
So that's what we have in place.
That's great.
These programs, are they all implemented? No, but the plan is there, and then step by step, it's rolled out together with the dealer partners.
That's great.
Diana referenced dealers' anxiety, and of course, with Volkswagen dealers, I don't know how much you hear about it. Certainly, those of us in the media, we hear from Volkswagen dealers complaining about Scout all the time, which being launched by Volkswagen Group doesn't have anything to do with you. But does that add stress to you? Does it, I'm sure they complain to you.
Oh, yes. They've been very vocal about it. And understandably, though, I have to say. So I understand the viewpoint. They've been very vocal about it. And we also said, listen, this is beyond our jurisdiction. But I also want to be at the same time very clear, because the question comes up, does Volkswagen believe in the dealership model?
Right.
Yes or no? And I would say I'm one of the very few who doesn't talk about, theory when you talk dealers, because, when I ran Porsche Cars North America, of course, that's a franchise business model. I went to Rivian, which is a direct-to-consumer business model. And now, in a franchise business model. So I've seen, and actually not only seen, but done both.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they have pros and cons. But I would say that the pros for the dealership model, and that is a bit underrated when you just look at margins and this and that. I believe very much in entrepreneurs, and I would think Diana would agree with that, how important entrepreneurs are.
Yes. The most important.
Most important.
To invent anything, you need entrepreneurs.
So now think about, let's take the US, this large country. When you have an entrepreneur on ground in Nashville, Tennessee, that's going to be very different versus, corporate employees. And this local entrepreneur who really has the interest, because they also have skin in the game, it's often their own money that they invested. And they want the money back. They need that back. Often it's leverage. So that entrepreneurial spirit, and also being often, they grew up there, and they know everyone. They're in the country club, and so they have the connection. They're rooted in the community. And we also find then often that dealers do great things for the community. So to me, that's also a win-win. They give back, they donate. I'm not going to name a specific dealer, but I've seen, because then the others will say, hey, what about me?
Right.
Rightfully so. But I've seen so much, for heart foundations. I've seen a lot of that. So this entrepreneurial spirit, you just can't beat that. This energy, and a lot of what happens in life is about energy, positive energy, to wake up that morning, said, we got this. And that's the franchise business model.
It's because they're so passionate, because their own skin is in the game.
Yes.
But you know what I find fascinating about dealers, especially VW stores? They may just be the GM or the GSM, not the owner, but they have that same kind of ownership mentality, which is so hard to replicate. And it's so hard.
That's so true.
To hire people to care about your business that much. But it is true that that kind of passion is really hard to see in any other industry. And that ownership mentality, you don't usually ever find in employees to that degree.
Absolutely. And that's good. That's good. It's not that we try to poke them, but that just shows they're emotionally invested. That's so important. That is important, that you care about this business. And that can then lead to an emotional reaction. If you care about something and see this is not going right, you're going to be very emotional.
Yes.
So I find that totally understandable, and I prefer that a zillion times versus apathy. Okay, whatever. It's just a job,
Right.
and then if it doesn't work here, I'm just going to go somewhere else. I would hate to see that.
Mm-hmm. Before we let you go, you mentioned just briefly AI. earlier, and of course we talk about it all the time. There's so many.
He's an engineer, so.
Right.
And a huge fan of AI.
Well, that's the thing. There are so many business use cases, but I'm curious, how do you use it in your own work life? Is it a part of what you do?
I'm a huge fan of AI. I will never forget when I used ChatGPT for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It's years ago. I was like, wow.
Did you fall in love like 2 seconds?
It was so limited back then. I think it's a complete game changer for pretty much everything in LinkedIn. So I use it daily in everything, in meeting preparation.
Mm-hmm.
The team would hand in a deck, and then there's a standard prompt. An interesting thing is I even share that with my team what that standard prompt is. So every deck will be analyzed by Copilot. So I have a good summary, the pros and cons and weaknesses, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes I'm better prepared for meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Your models must be incredible.
And some team members pick that up very well. Janine, our head of PR, she built this Kjell bot, and every email is fed into that. So kind of learning, which makes total sense. So I use it a lot. Also in my personal life right now, I'm always, giving Claude then the feedback that I get from ChatGPT and say, challenge it and vice versa. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So a little competition. Use Tolan, for some conversations. I don't know if you ever tried that.
No.
Tolan, it's an interesting AI app. Just the interaction is so fascinating, so real.
How's it different from Claude or GPT?
Or it is meant to be a conversational tool, really for conversations.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting how that works and how real it is. But I think it's a huge lever for the entire enterprise. So we have a large AI initiative. And then, of course, you look at where do you have the largest leverage, the largest unstructured data. So, of course, sales, marketing, after sales are huge areas where we can apply that. So to use that for faster decision making, making better decisions, having better customer solutions, leaner processes, I think it's a complete game changer. By the way, did you know, you probably didn't know, we have ChatGPT in all our cars. A Jetta.
Oh, wow.
So you can buy, a Volkswagen, a Jetta, $30,000, and you have ChatGPT in there. So our cars are fans of AI as well.
Wait a minute. So you talk to it and then it answers back?
Has the complete app in the vehicle. So please try it out. And
wow. So you can ask directions.
Part of our Connect services.
That is amazing.
And most people don't know.
Yeah.
So I thought
I've never
Does
heard
that start with
that
this
before.
model year, or has it been in everything for a year or two?
It went in step by
One
step.
by one.
One by one. So now all the vehicles have it. And again, also, more the entry models like a Taos or a Jetta, part of Connect.
Kel, do you
Great.
see the same adoption of AI with the dealer community as well?
I would say the spread is very large. Some are really good at it. I would say, but that's maybe 5 to 10%, and then some scratch the surface, and some will wait and see. I would say.
Do you know why I find it fascinating? Because one of my friends, who is the largest buy-sell banker of dealerships across the entire country, he said this is the most profitable time in the future for dealerships. Of course, he sells them too, but he said it is because now with the advancement of AI, it could eliminate a lot of the operational tasks that people are doing and speed things up, like what you're saying, and make things a lot easier, maybe service parts, identifying certain needs. Do you see that as well in the future where car dealerships can be a lot leaner?
I think it can really free up time. Be clear, let's say, on diagnosing a vehicle problem, giving then the service technician a much clearer and also visualize this is how you do it, having that video ready. So I think it can really, and there's always a shortage of service technicians. So if we enable them to repair cars faster, it helps them to repair more cars at the same time. So, and then for the customers, they have their cars earlier back, but also so many back-end processes and F&I versus sales. So if that frees up time for the salesperson to really sit down with the customers, do the needs analysis, show them cars, I think it can make them so much more productive. And often, especially these things, they're also not fun, to fill out all these forms or look for data. So I think really, again, I'm a fan. It can really free up resources for the important things.
Yes, I see that. Yeah. And I find it the same way. There's certain dealers that I was shocked because we actually launched the first OpenAI betas out there. And I actually went on some of these calls and I had dealers tell me, like giant dealer groups, tell me that they've never used any bot ever.
Mm-hmm.
Shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because only 1% right now, less than 1% of paid ads are actually going and converting on a website at this point. 1%. So low. And I believe, and tell me what you believe on this, I'm very curious. I believe third-party listing sites toast in the future. I really believe it. And the reason is, why would anybody use them? I would just go to a chatbot and ask the question, where to find the car, how much is the price, where do I get the car? Do you believe that with third-party listing sites? I would feel like they're under a lot of pressure.
Good question. The question is, how would they evolve then?
I know.
Because they're going to fight back.
I know. But I think dealers are so scrappy that I think this is the first time they're having an advantage, Because it's not all aggregated into one site.
Yeah. True.
And they're no longer selling everything for them. It's the chatbots that are going to sell things for them.
Yeah. When they can crawl. So
yeah,
I agree.
So I find it interesting. And I've heard from some third-party listing sites, their traffic is down anywhere from 25 to 50% right now.
Okay.
Actually, I ChatGPT that too. It told me. So fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts on the rest of the year ahead?
I said crisis is the new normal.
Right.
That means it's going to be normal. No, I think I'm really looking forward to launching the Atlas. Have that, and you've seen it. You were positive about it. We are very convinced. Also, it was the best clinic vehicle we had ever in our clinics. We're really looking forward to that. And then you have to have everything ready. The suppliers, the Chattanooga team is getting ready for that. So that's going to be huge for us. We have the new Tiguan here all year. So I'm looking forward to a good year. And again, also in collaboration with the dealers, I think the steps we're making for better and closer collaboration is also going to help them, deliberately starting with them first. And then as a side effect of that, also us. I'm positive.
Thank you so much, Kjell Gruner. Thank you for having us here. Diana, what a great conversation.
Yes. And Kjell, I will say that VW dealers are very lucky to have you because you're stable, you're kind, you're generous with your time. It's a very good match. So
it is. And I'm very grateful for them, for their passion and for everything that they've done for the business also over the decades. Often, family businesses, etc. So we're very grateful for them.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Kjell.
Thank you for the invitation. That was fun. Good conversation.
Thank you.